What's going on, reefers? Blaine here. In today's video, we are back in the studio and I am sitting right next to the Reefer 250, and today we're going to be giving you all an update of what's been going on with this tank. It's been a little over 3 months since we've last seen this tank here on the channel, and a lot of things have changed. Primarily, there's been a lot of growth and there's been some equipment that's come in and out of the tank. Mainly down below, we've seen a lot of changes, but there has been quite a lot of things that have shifted in this system. We'll go ahead and start right off with kind of the equipment and some of the main things that have changed inside the system. Originally, we had a big breakout of dinos, so we ended up bringing in a UV sterilizer from Seche, the UVC, and then we also added in a super large rock of coralline algae, something from the farm, something that could give us a big boost in our beneficial bacteria to kind of try and help us fight off the dinos. That rock originally was kind of tucked in the back behind the scape. It was this giant kind of monstrosity that I was really wanting to get out of the system, and so recently Evan, and I have to stop real quick, I have to give a big shout out to Evan. Evan is over in the farm, one of the main curators over there, but he's been a huge help with this tank. Without Evan, this tank wouldn't be what it is today, so I got to give him a huge shout out for all the help he gives me, not only over in the farm, but here in the studio. It's been awesome to kind of work with him hand in hand, and we were lucky enough to get a little bit of time this past Friday to really get in and get our hands wet with this tank, really start working on it and try and shift some things around. Primarily, we really wanted to deal with that main big rock in the tank, so ended up pulling it out of the display. I smashed it up into a million pieces, and then we shifted it down to the sump down below. That sump down below was pretty busy. I had a lot of equipment going on down in there, so we ended up pulling out the UVC sterilizer from Seche and also the pump that was pushing water through that UV sterilizer. So we gained 2 more outlets, and we took a couple things out of the sump. With that stuff out of the sump, I had a lot more room to kind of work with to get a bunch of that rubble underneath the roller mat, underneath, you know, the sump in general, just in that main kind of open fuge space has kind of become just primarily a rubble rock section. So was really excited and stoked to be able to get that giant piece of rock out of the display tank. It looks nice again to finally have the scape, the aesthetically pleasing scape, back to itself. But other than that, when it comes to the equipment, we've kept everything else online. We did do something that I wanted to remind everyone at home to do every now and then. We took our gyre out, we soaked it in acid, we cleaned it off with a toothbrush, and now we are getting some great flow again. We noticed that the torch here in the back corner wasn't getting nearly the flow it used to get, so Evan said it's time to do a bath in the acid, get this thing cleaned up, and we've cleaned out the gyre. You know, it's a friendly reminder for everyone at home. If you're watching the video today, maybe stop what you're doing real quick, put it on pause, go grab yourself a bucket, maybe start doing some maintenance next to your tank while you're tuning in for this one. I also want to let everyone know we are almost at 25,000 subscribers. I want to thank you guys so much, but if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. I'm pretty sure almost 70% of you guys that watch the videos currently right now aren't actually subscribed. So it's free, hit the subscribe button down below. It's a huge help for the channel. It's a huge help for me. So definitely be subscribed to the Top Shelf Aquatics channel. Let's get back to the tank. Outside of that though, we've got all the same equipment here in the system. We've got the protein skimmer still rolling. We took that apart. We did a nice deep clean on that as well. Basically, all of last Friday was a nice big deep clean. One thing we do really want to do here in the next couple days or so, maybe this Friday, is we wanted to get everything off the sandbed, get all the corals out of the sandbed, off of it, you know, maybe in a bin off to the side. And, you know, during a water change, we wanted to do a huge water change, going through siphoning the sandbed. We wanted to take the time to really take care of our sandbed. I think it's really important for everyone at home that wants to have a sandbed in their reef tank, they take the time to do some work on it. I think it's something you have to constantly work on and make sure you're tending to. Something that you can do that Joe Tusi did and talked about in his tank tour. If you guys haven't watched that video, be sure to do so. Almost at 100,000 views, really stoked about that. But Tusi talked about how he had a plethora of Nassarius snails in his system, and they were constantly turning over the sand at night. He also had a lot of wrasses that lived in the sandbed, so those were constantly turning over the sandbed too. So something to put into consideration when you have a sandbed is taking the time to work on it. So this upcoming Friday. We're gonna try and get everything off the sand bed, get it nice and cleared off so we can get in there with a siphon, a vacuum hose, and really start some nice work in there. It will be tough to work around the rock flowers that are in the tank. I have to say these rock flowers are looking insane. They've really grown a ton, and a lot of the colors are spectacular in those. But we're probably not gonna be able to take those out because more than likely they are down and attached to the glass at the bottom. It looks like they kind of work their foots down that way. But for the play corals, the pectinias, all the other things that are kind of chilling on the sand bed, we can get those out, get them into a bin, and then we can do some nice deep maintenance on our sand. Talked about some of the corals we have on the sand bed that we're gonna be dealing with here in our upcoming maintenance, but let's talk about the corals, right? Let's talk about some of our favorite things here at Top Shelf Aquatics. And I have to say some of the growth in a lot of the corals in this tank have been really good. I'm excited to see some really good growth going on with the zoas, the mind meld monty, the dragon up top's encrusting, the torch has split off into numerous heads. There's a lot of really good things going on with this tank. Of course, with the good, there's some things that we want to change and some things we want to shift around. So something I really want to get in this tank is more sticks. I want to get more SPS in this system, and we've got a lot of real estate up top that we haven't tapped into. So excited to kind of start working in more sticks into this tank. I think it's ready. I think it's time that we start doing so. So everyone drop a comment down below. Let Kevin know that I need sticks. I need some fire to get in this tank and get really growing and encrusting. But when it comes to the other sticks that are in the tank, I mean, the contraband in the back and then also the dragon up top, I mean, they're looking really good. Have got some great encrustment going on. Also, the mind meld monty is shooting out some really nice colors. We've been able to maintain all three of them really well, so excited to see that. I do see on some of the new growth, I'm seeing a big increase in some of the red, so I'll probably end up doing some bonsaiing, do some snipping of the red and focus in on trying to maintain those three colors. As for our LPS in the tank, we've got the torch, like I mentioned, the hammer down low, our nice Bernardipora garden that's here off to the left of the tank. But on the far right side, we had a nice little group of Ghanies. Now, these Ghanies, I think we need to shift around. They need a different space here in the tank. Some of them have bleached out just a little bit. Me and Evan have spoke about it quite a bit, and it's time we get those shifted around, get them into a different space in the tank. I think it's just a little bit too much light. And at 1.2, we had a Nero that was on the back side over on that other side of the tank, and it was just a little bit too much flow. Once we pulled that, the flow was better for the Ghanies over there in that section, but we still feel the light is still a little too intense for them, and that's some real estate that we'd love to get some more sticks onto. So we're thinking we're gonna try and shift those around. We're probably gonna make a nice little Ghani garden. You know, we have our nice Bernard garden here over on the left. Why not shift some Ghanies together and create a nice little Ghani garden? One thing I did want to highlight mainly about our LPS, some that are doing extremely well, are the chalices. Now the cloudberry chalice is to die for. It's starting to really encrust out and it's showcasing a lot of its really nice true colors. Super excited to see that, but the star of the show has got to be that rainbow chalice. I mean, it is unreal. I'm hoping I'm gonna be able to get some really good top-down shots of it and showcase all the colors that it's really putting out. But when we were working on the tank this past Friday, man, when we got the chance to shift it over and get it off the rock so we could get it onto a little bit better space onto the sand bed so we're not playing with the two chalices together, it really was amazing to see the colors that we've been able to develop, the really bright orange, the really bright green. It's quite a showstopper. So extremely excited to see the growth that's been going on with the rainbow chalice. It's looking really nice. And then too, on top of it, the pectinias. So I mean, we've got the Space Invader smack in the middle of the sand bed right now, but it's doing really well. It was one of the first corals we put into this tank, and it has definitely grown since the moment we put it in. I mean, it is definitely encrusting out. It's about time we get it onto either a plate or another piece of rubble, a bigger piece of rubble, because it's really starting to fan out and put out some amazing new growth. The plate corals too, like we mentioned, they are doing really, really well in the last update video. This green plate that's tucked kind of in the back, I'll definitely be showing some shots off of it though. It almost gives me like a jump scare every time I see it because it's so big. It's just gigantic. So really cool. Funny story about that actual green plate coral too was that was a trade-in long ago that Top Shelf ended up getting in, and it was a dying plate skeleton, and it ended up shooting out a ton of babies from it, and then now we're able to rear and aquaculture them here in our farm. But a fun little fact for you guys at home, if you guys have a plate coral, it doesn't do well and ended up passing away, don't get rid of the skeleton, tuck it away in the back of your scape or something, and there's the potential for some babies to pop up over time. The zoas in the tank are doing really good too. We've had a couple of them not fare out super well, but for the most part, they're doing extremely well. The Super Saiyans, the Utter Chaos, TSA Chemically Altered, the list goes on, but they're looking really, really nice. I've loved how we've placed them out on the scape. Something to kind of try and remind myself too though is some of them I may need to keep in check a little bit better. Some of them are outgrowing others, so if I want to maintain kind of the nice color contrast and the nice Zoa garden look, I'm gonna need to make sure I get in there, do some cleaning up of the other Zoas that are outgrowing one another, and make sure that they're not out competing each other. As for the corals that we want to get into the tank, I've kind of hammered it home and talked about it already, but I'd love to get more SPS in the tank. I think it's time for more sticks. It is time, and I am really excited about getting some real choice pieces in here. I'd love to get some nice tabling acros. I think we have some really cool ledges we could utilize in a way like that. I think a nice big old tenuous would be awesome too. So I'm really looking forward to getting some more corals in this tank, but giving you guys an update, showing off how it's been looking is super exciting. We've had some great growth. But the one thing that has been a little bit of an issue for this tank has been the fish. The fish have kind of been an issue on and off since the beginning of this tank, whether it be them jumping out of the tank, then having a lid and them jumping through the lid, getting caught, or now fish kind of sort of disappearing. We are kind of down to only a few fish now at this point. We have a single chalk bass, we've got a single firefish, and we have our possum wrasse. Kind of shocking to think that out of all those fish, the possum wrasse is still one of the only fish still in here, and it's actually doing, I would say, the best. It's constantly working the tank, running around, looking for anything extra to eat, and whenever it's feeding time, it goes absolutely bonkers for food and slurps it up. One thing I will point out about the possum wrasse is I do feel he's going after some of the cleanup crew when it comes to the smaller snails and hermits we've added into the tank. I see kind of a litter of empty shells on the sand bed, so I'm sure the possum wrasse is having his way with going in and grabbing some of those smaller cleanup crew members. Maybe I need to do a little bit more feeding, but I think overall though, the cleanup crew in general is doing exactly what they need to do. We are actively, kind of re-upping it every month, couple months or so. So something important for everyone at home, if you're not resupplying your cleanup crew, they do perish and kind of disappear over time, so it's important to kind of re-up your cleanup crew to maintain that kind of nice robust team, that janitor team in your tank that's working on keeping this tank nice and clean. But yeah, we definitely need to get some more fish into this system. Evan and I have gone over it quite a bit. I think it'd be good maybe to get a bristletooth into this tank. Some more working fish would definitely be ideal. I think, we can't have a bunch of freeloaders in this system not doing any work and not trying to maintain the nice cleanliness of this tank, but it would be good to get some more fish here in the system. Recently we did get some Borbonius anthias in. I think it'd be really cool to get a borb in this tank with the cliffs and the ledges and all the different things we have. I think the borb would naturally act really cool in this tank. But I'm gonna ask you guys, and I wanted to hear from every single one of you, what fish would you put into this system? Now, obviously it's a 60-gallon or so display tank, so we don't have a ton of room, but we don't have a ton of fish in here either. Only a chalk bass, a possum wrasse, and a single firefish. So there's a lot of room for some more fish. So I would love to hear down in the comments below what you guys think we should be adding into the TSA Top Shelf Studio display tank. And of course, we're gonna be working through getting them conditioned and kind of semi-quarantined before they enter into this system. I think it's super important that we go through and condition our fish, make sure they're ready for aquarium life before we get them into the studio and introduce them to the family. Overall, that is definitely one of the biggest issues currently with the tank, is that we need more nutrients, especially with our corals getting ready to grow. We want to add more corals. We're going to need more fish, or we're going to have to start dosing. So we need to make that decision, but I would definitely love to see a little bit more fish added into the Reefer 250. One thing I didn't really harp on in the last update video was talking about what we're dosing for the tank. Outside of the phytoplankton and some small manual dosing, adjustments that are happening from the farm team and, things that Evan's pointing out, we're not doing any dosing. We don't have anything underneath actively dosing outside of our auto top off, dosing fresh water into the tank, getting the salinity right, but we are not dosing anything currently right now. So I find it kind of interesting to see that we're having such great success, and it's primarily just from the water changes I'm doing every week. Me and Evan, we're doing water changes weekly. At this point, we've kind of limited it now to a single 5-gallon bucket water change every Friday. Fridays are the days that I usually work on the studio tank, so I'll come in, and having the ability to do a single bucket water change is really nice, especially when I have to walk the water all the way from the farm here into the studio. So nice to know that I only have to do a single 5-gallon water change. Outside of that though, that was pretty much what I wanted to do here today, was come in, talk about the studio tank, talk about the Reefer 250, give you all an update, what's been going on, with the corals, kind of some of the quirks and things we've been working through, showcase the tank now that we don't have that gigantic rock in the display anymore. I think it's looking really good though. I'm very proud of this tank. I'm proud of the studio, how it's kind of coming along. It's been quite some time now, almost 2 years here that I've almost been here at Top Shelf Aquatics. So little over a year and a half or so on this tank. So we're excited to see the progress on it. Obviously I want to get in some more fish, but we definitely want to get more corals in here too. It's time to get more sticks up top. We are the land of sticks here at TSA. Kevin is the coral whisperer when it comes to his stony corals. So I think it's about time we got some more sticks up on top of the scape. If you guys have hung out all the way till the end for this one, if you guys have enjoyed this one, be sure to let me know down in the comments, and also don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you guys don't miss out on any future uploads.